Hey, everybody. Sorry about that delay. I thought I had the camera on. Hope everyone is doing well today. We've had a busy week in the group already with all the work we've been doing, putting together this month's training on the Entre CEO Leadership Academy, really diving in deep on putting together those one-page plans. And so I appreciate everybody who's been enjoying those. Some of the training, and this is training we'll do here. Obviously, when we bring people into our large leadership academy, trainings like this go much deeper, much more interactive. But this is the kind of content that we do work on at a different level of detail over in the Leadership Academy for those of you who are considering joining us there. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about hiring. One of the challenges I think all of us have as our businesses grow is trying to figure out the best way to get the right people on board into our organizations. So we're going to talk some about some different things you can do. Sorry, I'm just going to fix that camera a bit. Some different things that you can do to try and improve the hiring, to try and make better decisions both before hiring and then once you get them on the team, and then really making sure how they balance and pull together the larger organization that you have. So that's what we'll be covering today in about 10 or 15 minutes. And if you have questions, just go ahead and drop them in the comments, and I'll be happy to pick those up and answer those as we go through today too. So let's talk about hiring. The first place to even think about when you're looking to bring someone on board into your organization is, do we really need to bring them into the organization? A lot of times, we look at work and we say, oh man, this stuff's not getting done. We need to hire somebody to get this stuff done. And that I get, but I think we need to always take a care to look at kind of the urgencies of the moment. And sometimes work gets piled up because we're all tied up with doing some other things, or there may be a bigger project. But we don't want to bring people into the organization just to get work done. We really, thanks for that. We really want to focus on bringing people into the organization that are going to bring value to the organization. So what does that mean? I think we want to ask the questions about this of how are we going to get this work done? And then the second question, and more important question, is how can adding this position help us to either grow faster, make us more efficient, or actually reduce expense? And there's a lot of different ways any of those can happen, right? You're bringing in more people on the sales and revenue side or the product development side that you're going to create a product that's going to bring you more revenue. Certainly that makes sense from a growth perspective. From reducing expense, it could be you're currently outsourcing the work, and at one point that work made a lot of sense to be outsourced, but the price is going up on that, or you've got some additional risks that you're creating with that. So you can actually reduce expense or reduce exposure by bringing that person into your organization as a full-time job into your organization. And then becoming more efficient, if you can bring in, again, it's similar if you're outsourcing and bringing it in, you might be able to reduce your costs. You might be able to make things go faster. If you're bringing people in who are going to actually help you, maybe you're bringing in some experts that are going to help you be more efficient in your processes that ultimately are going to save you money. But it's a really important consideration that this is a value add to the organization, not just something that you feel like you must do because you've got some work that has to get done. And that may seem like a little distinction without a difference, but it's really not. What we really want is everybody we bring into the organization should have some sort of value tied to it. As a matter of fact, Donald Miller, who wrote StoryBrand and more recently wrote Business Made Simple, he posits in his book that every hire at every level of the organization should provide at least a 5x return on their salary to be justified to be brought into the job. And I can see, I'm not sure that 5 is the right number. 5 is probably a good number, a good place for us to start that discussion. But if you think about, a sales rep certainly makes sense. You may want even more than 5x out of a sales rep, but by the time you bring a sales rep on, let's say you're paying them, whatever your base is, then you're paying them some sort of bonus structure. You've got insurance costs on top of that. So let's say all in, they're costing you $60,000, $70,000, maybe more, depending on the kind of things you're selling. But, what's the appropriate return? We don't want to just bring them in to generate $70,000 in revenue because that's just net nothing to us. And just incremental amounts above that doesn't make sense. So maybe it is 5x. Maybe we are looking for them to bring in $350,000 in revenue or $700,000 in revenue. So think through what it is you want to get from that role when you bring it in, so you can clearly set expectations on what's going on with that role. I could even, you can also look at that way from marketing, bringing people into marketing. Similar, it's very much a return on that investment. Is it going to get you more leads that are going to turn over to your sales folks for them to convert? Is it going to get you better leads than you're getting today? Is it going to give you increased exposure? So look to see, what is it I want out of that job? It's not just, hey, my marketing VP says they're swamped and they need help. It's, if we bring that person in, what kind of incremental value are they going to bring to the organization? And it needs to cover a lot more than just their overall cost to you as the owner of the business. Similarly, you can look at customer service. Customer service reps play a pivotal role in the organization too. Obviously, if they can save you clients, that brings a lot of value back. If you've got somebody in there who's really good at bringing revenue back to the organization or saving revenue from leaving the organization over customer service issues, absolutely worth the investment that you're making. And you can do that math if you see what the value is of the business that they save. If they provide you with good word of mouth, you can look into evaluating, at least roughly evaluating, what that word of mouth is worth to you by bringing in high quality levels of customer service. And two, where do they have the opportunities to upsell? Maybe you have a couple different levels of products, and what is the amount you need them to upsell to justify bringing them on into that position. I would even make the argument, maybe you're running the business and you want to bring in an administrative assistant or executive assistant to support you. Well, one of the things that I would want to look at is, what is that person going to take off my plate that I no longer will have to pay as much attention to? And what's the value of what I can now do with my time that's going to provide additional return to the business? So I would look at it that way, is right. So now I've got an executive assistant or administrative assistant who's going to take over some tasks that are probably, at what I'm looking for an effective hourly rate out of me, could be handled at a much lower price point, and also frees me up to do more big revenue generating opportunities or big reductions in expense or whatever it may be that I want to try and work towards. So it's really just this idea around this particular topic, around when you make the decision to hire, really think strategically through how you're going to use that hire, how that hire is going to start generating a higher rate of return for your business. And don't just think about it as, well, that job doesn't generate revenue. Think about it through these different lenses to say, hey, where does this increase value to the bottom line of the business? Because if you just keep hiring and hiring, all you're doing is taking more and more out of your profit margins. And, you run the risk in a downturn of then turning around and having to get those people out the door. So I'm always very careful when I hire. I really want to make sure that I'm bringing in value. And, when I talk about my background in Fortune 100 companies, my background running a business, those are the kinds of things that make those companies successful over the long haul, is because they look at these hiring decisions as something that has to bring incremental value to the business. So I'd really encourage you guys to think about that as you're thinking about adding employees to your business. Now, let's take it down to another level. Job descriptions. And, if you're in the small business space, you probably don't have a full-time HR person who's holding you to, very stringent ways that they want job descriptions written. But there's two different kinds of job descriptions. There's the job descriptions that's the ones that's kind of legally required. And, 25% of your time is going to be spent doing this, and 18% of your time is going to be doing this. And, you may have to lift in this capacity and all those kinds of things. And those are important and those are great. But that's not what I'm talking about when I talk about a job description. All week we've been talking about the one-page business plan process. And what I like about the one-page business plan is it's useful for so many things. You can use the one-page business plan format on project management. And the other thing that I've really been working on and starting to explore more with my clients is using the one-page business plan methodology to actually create job descriptions. Why would I want to do that? Well, I'd want to do that for the very same reasons that I use it for the business. I want to create a mission and vision for this job. So if I'm bringing you in, I want to be looking at what I want that position to be doing for my business 3 years from now. So what kind of additional revenue do I expect, coming into the business? What kind of productivity? Where are they going to be focused? Maybe we're not talking about a geographic region like we look at for your business in the vision statement, in a vision statement for a one-page business plan, but we darn sure are going to have some ideas of where we want their footprint to be in that job. So it's an idea of, one, let's create that clarity of vision of where we want that position to be in 3 years. And then the mission, why does the position exist? Why did we create this position, or why did we add this position? So these are important questions, because what we want to do is have this document so we know for ourselves why we're filling this position, But also we want to make sure that our candidates can look at this as we talk about with the one-page business plan. You should be able to show that to someone and they have a very good understanding of how your business goes and how your business runs. Similarly, I want to be able to hand this document to prospective candidates to see, so they can see from a mission and vision standpoint what I'm looking for you to grow into, why the position exists, and then scaling back to the 1 year perspective, here's your 5 to 7, not more than 9 objectives. Maybe it is just 5 to 7 for an individual position. What are the strategies? Strategies are how you want them to execute the job. There are also things like if you have cultural values for your business, and you should have some cultural identity or how your culture works or how you drive engagement, how is that reflected in this job? How do I see in my visions, in my cultural value statement about how I treat employees or how I treat clients, how I acquire business? How does that translate into how I want you to act in your job? And then finally, what are the big projects I'm going to be looking for you? What are the action plans that I need from you in this role to either be able to execute the strategies I've outlined for the role or the bigger organization and to achieve the objectives? What tools, what pieces do you need to do that? So if you think about it that way, you're providing to your employee or a prospective employee a very clear idea of what you want from the job, not just some legal checkoff document that you have to have for HR, but really here's the spirit of what I want. You talk about the letter of the law and the spirit, not the, it's the job description of the law and the spirit of the job description and the spirit of the job. And that's what I want to be able to present to my candidates so they get a great sense from me about what it is that I'm looking for in that role. And when you do that, you're going to have a much better opportunity to make sure that your prospective candidates know exactly what they're walking into, because they may look at some of those strategies or they may look at those objectives and they may say, you know what, I don't want any part of that. That's not how I work. That's not how I operate. And that's going to save you money in the long term, because if they come in, they don't work out because they don't realize those impacts, you're just going to lose them anyway. And you're going to have to go through that process and hire them again. And that's going to cost you productivity. It's going to cost you time. It's going to be an additional expense to hire that person. So I really would encourage you to consider creating something using the one-page plan methodology, but driven down to the job description level, because I think you'll start to see a much higher rate of return on those happy candidates and candidates that fit your organization when we do it that way. And then the last piece that I would encourage you to think about is to use a tool using assessments. I know there's a lot of different points of view on assessments of both their value and their validity, and in using them in an application process. I don't like to use assessments as kind of a cutoff to say if you don't meet this, you don't get the job, is the only reason you don't get the job. But I like to use an instrument called the Core Values Index. And if you're interested in taking the Core Values Index, just so you can see down there in the scroll, you can learn more about who you are as a leader, who you are as a person, and it's at clearpathcoaches.com/CVI. I'd encourage you to go ahead and go out and take that assessment, check that out and see what you think and get your results back. But what I like to do with that is, one, when I get that back, that allows me to ask questions. I have in my mind, when I learn that methodology, kind of the relative score. So the Core Values Index has 4 areas that it measures, and I think we've talked about it on here before. It looks at merchant, which is really your ideas of that's really your visionary person. That's your person who is the connector, who's the motivation, who's team focused. We have the innovator, who is a problem solver. They quickly make assessments. They prioritize. They reconfigure solutions. They're big on figuring out the best processes for your organization. The banker, who gains and preserves knowledge. They're very focused on conserving energy, conserving data, analyzing, and then informing. And then the last one is the builder, who are the achievers of results, right? They drive forward. They're very bottom line focused. And typically you're some combination, in your 2 primary core energies or some combination of those 2. But the beauty of this is it tells you also, you can move into any of these energies throughout your day, but the Core Values Index will help us assess how big of a lift it is for you to do that. So I'm going to have an idea if it's a sales role or an operations role or a finance role, what I'm roughly looking for in the Core Values Index for that person around their scores. And what I find a lot is that people think they know themselves and they may have convinced themselves to do some things, but it's probably not their core strength and their core energy. And that's going to inform my questions that I'm going to ask them as part of my interview process. So, and a lot of times what I have found is when I go against what I see in the results and say, well, I think they can do it anyway, chances are they really can't, or it's going to be so much effort for them to do it. it's not worth doing on a day-to-day basis, and they just get exhausted and burnt out. For me, for example, I'm an innovator banker, and a lot of people meet me and think, oh, you must be a merchant, you're very outgoing, you have a vision, and you can look at those things. Well, one, my scores are pretty clustered together, so it's not that big of a stretch for me to shift into merchant. But as my lowest score, for me to act like a merchant all day long, today has been a day when I've done a lot of speaking, I've done a lot of group coaching, I've done a lot of one-to-one coaching. I've been out there today for me. And I can tell you, when I'm done with this call here in a short while, I'm going to be done for the day, because it's taken a lot of energy for me to do it. Now, I don't necessarily want to do that in and out every day. And if I do, I'm going to start getting a little burnt out. But I need to know that about the people. And so that helps me to really kind of dig down and dig deep and understand what this person is all about, so I can ask those questions and I can make that assessment of how well are they going to be able to do this job, and are there aspects of this job that are probably outside of what their energies are going to drive them to do. Now, you may find out, I can think of one example where it was a person who probably wasn't great in a day-to-day management role, but they had a lot of other skills that worked in other parts of the business. So you can make those decisions and maybe say, hey, I know I'm going to need someone here. I want to bring that person back for that job. The other thing that I would look at when I use the core values index is in team building. I'm looking for balance in the team. If I have a team full of builders, what's going to happen is they're all going to be driving forward so fast, so hard all the time. They're not going to worry about the destruction they leave in the wake, because they're not going to have necessarily be focused on, do I have data-driven decisions, or have I thought through all the options, or am I bringing everyone along with me? So you don't want to have a team full of just one of those energies. So you want to look around your team to make sure you've got a nice complementary balance, because it may be for you, you have certain strengths, there's certain, you want to surround yourself. For me, I like to surround myself with, make sure I have some builders and some merchants around me to take care of that energy and to remind me when I need to call on that energy for the team. So these are all just a variety of things for you to think about as you are working to grow your team and hire people in. I would love to help you build that out. First step, I would encourage you to take the CVI, get a sense from that assessment, a little more of where your energies lie. But really, as you're looking to grow your teams, I would love to sit with you. Let's talk about how we can help you figure out the best way to get that team filled, get the right description, make the right decision about bringing somebody on board at the right time, and then get the right person into that role. So that's it. That is our ClearPath Leadercast for today. Thanks everybody for your attention. Thanks for everybody who's been with us this week on the ClearPath on the Entre CEO Leadership Academy. Really look forward to working with all of you. And again, if you would like to set up with us and get working as part of our wow, you can tell I've been on the phone all day, or been on all day. I'm losing my thought process. But if you would like to join us and be part of the program, or at least have a discussion about joining our program, I'd really encourage you to set up a time to talk to me tomorrow at clearpathcoaches.com/consult call, and we will jump in and really figure out how we can get you into the Entre CEO Leadership Academy so that you can become the leader you aspire to be, get your CEO mindset on, and ultimately build the business you've always dreamed of. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.